In case you missed it, here's a Sports Animal Rewind.
Time to talk some recruiting right now. Obviously, Tennessee is off to a fantastic start in 2014. To help us break things down from a recruiting standpoint, we bring in the National Recruiting Director for 24/7 Sports, J.C. Shurburtt, joins us here on the new Sentinel Sports page. Hey, J.C., Vince, and Mike. How you doing this morning, J.C.?
Hey, it's great to be with you guys today.
Always great to be with you, J.C. And you tweeted something yesterday that certainly caught our attention and was noteworthy, that Tennessee would be picking up potentially. They have a shot to pick up some major commitments over the next 30 to 60 days within Georgia, and that the Vols were doing a great job in Georgia. Kind of expand on that a little bit if you could.
Yeah, if you look at the history behind of the Tennessee program, I guess, the last 20 years or so, Georgia's an awfully important state. Metro Atlanta, straight down I-75 from Knoxville. It's an easy trip via car. There are spots in the state of Georgia, particularly northwest Georgia, that are, closer to Tennessee than they are to Athens, and so is Atlanta, for that matter. Parts of northern Atlanta. I don't know about closer miles-wise, but it's more of a straight shot, I guess. That was kind of I'm confident. But, I think that, that's an important state. I think that what was surprising about the Dooley era is they didn't put more emphasis there. They didn't recruit it as successfully as they could have. And I think Butch Jones and company, have really been aggressive in the state of Georgia, early in his tenure, and it's paid off. That you look at their commit list right now, and of course there's one guy from Georgia on the list, but there are about to be two, and then Kevin Muhan, the 4-star linebacker from Norcross, Georgia. I would classify him as a Tennessee lean right now. Also, you look at Cortez McDowell, the safety from Locust Grove. I would classify him as a Tennessee lean right now. And those were the two I was thinking, in addition to Orlando Brown, that may be close to making a decision. Of course, these are high school kids, so you never know. I'd also keep my eye on cornerback DJ Smith from Walton High School in Marietta, Georgia. I believe Tennessee leads for him at present. I think if Florida decided that he was an absolute take and they really wanted him, the Gators would be a team to watch for because he grew up a Florida fan. But right now, I think it's the Vols, and I think South Carolina is making a little move. But right now, I would think that he could end up being yet another Georgia prospect heading to the University of Tennessee.
JC, there's so many prospects in Georgia because of the population and whatever, and we know Tennessee recruits hard there. Does every SEC school recruit Georgia as hard as Tennessee does, or does Tennessee hit it a little harder than some of the others?
Well, no, they've been Tennessee's actually recruiting it harder now than they did, I guess, during the Dooley era, which was sort of a surprise that they didn't hit Georgia a little harder. But yeah, every SEC program, essentially is in Georgia. That includes Texas A&M. I know Missouri has taken some coaches out of Texas and put them in Georgia and Florida this year, just because their geography has kind of changed as far as their recruiting footprint. Of course, Florida does. I think South Carolina, if you look at sort of the rise of the Gamecocks program, they are getting the kids out of Georgia that Auburn and Tennessee may be used to. I think Auburn, after they won the national championship, sort of went national in scope, and they didn't get those guys out of the Peach State that went there as maybe 3 or low 4-star guys and ended up being all SEC because they just developed them, and they were players that they could bring along. Auburn sort of got away from that, and Tennessee didn't recruit it as hard, and I think that's helped Coach Spurrier and the Gamecocks. And if you look at the people making plays on their roster, not necessarily the Clownies of the world, but the guys that are sort of the blue-collar guys. There's a lot of guys from Georgia on that roster. So I think that when you look at the East, Tennessee doesn't necessarily have to go in and beat Alabama on a Georgia kid to get the program to the level where they can go recruit across the country like they used to. I think they need to go beat South Carolina, to a lesser extent Vanderbilt, and maybe Auburn on a player or two in the state of Georgia to get that roster back to the level it needs to get to.
Talking football recruiting with J.C. Shurburtt, who's the National Recruiting Director for 24/7 Sports. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at J.C. Shurburtt. It's SHURBURTT. Before we get back to some Vols and SEC things, J.C., talk about some of the new features you have on 24/7 Sports, the crystal ball, the assistant coaches and who the lead recruiters are, some of those different features that are very unique and helping in that advancement of 24/7 Sports.
Absolutely. Crystal Ball is designed. First of all, it's fun because everybody loves predictions and prognostications and stuff. That's sports. That's one thing that throughout the history of sports journalism we've all loved and people love to read, and sometimes people take it way too seriously. But Crystal Ball is sort of taking the cutting through the chase a little bit and going on record and letting folks know that this is where we think this kid's going based on what we know. And it's open to, all recruiting analysts or reporters, experts from throughout the country. Eventually, the next version of it's going to have recruiting analyst rankings for accuracy based on a formula. There's going to be a component where fans can predict, and you're going to be able to win free time on the site and things like that. It's just going to be a complete interactive artery to our network. We're sort of making those predictions articles that get so many views and so much traffic during the heat of recruiting season. We're sort of just making that into an everyday thing. The recruiter rankings was an idea that I've had for a while. And we just kind of developed it. Shannon Terry and I and the rest of our team sort of kind of developed it. But, every year you have the top 25 recruiters list, and a lot of those lists are political in nature and stuff. And I do think there's a place for saying, okay, this guy signed 2 4-stars at Tulane. He's up there. But we wanted a way also to make it sort of a numerical composite, based on just the facts, just the numbers, and rank the guys. And during coaching change season, which is kind of a new season in college football, fans will be able to look and say, hey, the new head coach here just hired the number 5 recruiter in the country to be part of our staff, and fans can get excited about it and all that. Now, because this is the second full cycle that we've calculated these, and I think coaches will feel better about this, we're eventually going to have it to where there's a 3-year average. So in other words, if a guy recruits a certain area and he's there for 3 years, and then 1 year there's nobody there, obviously that's his ranking's not going to be very high for that particular cycle. So we feel like in time it's going to be more of a 3-year kind of average for the recruiters. To where you can look at that, you can look at their in season and all that good stuff. So those are 2 very exciting products. In basketball recruiting, team rankings have been done manually for so long, just kind of subjective, and we've also added basketball team recruiting rankings based on a formula that updates automatically as teams get commits, and we're very excited about that too.
JC, you gotten to the point where a lot of people are now referencing the 24/7 composite as a one-stop shop. Let's bottom line this. It's an average of numerous sites and rankings to put into one, and I think that's brilliant that you guys have been able to accomplish that to this point. How many different sites are put into that composite to come up with that ranking system for individual players and for teams?
Well, including 24/7 Sports, there are 3 others. I'm not allowed to disclose those names.
Yeah.
But I think folks can figure it out. But everybody's equally weighed within the composite. And editorially, if you're another media outlet, I think that's the most fair way to do it. I mean, you're either going to do that or, you're going to sit there and write out every different recruiting ranking that there is. So I think that, it's a fair way to do it. It gives fans and other media a consensus. I think it also, is who we are. I mean, we're not sitting here tooting our own horns, bragging about ranking this guy 5-star. We think there's validity in just about everybody's rankings, and I think that by comparison, ours are pretty doggone good. But we don't know that we always have all the answers, and we think that when you're ranking a team's recruiting class, fans want to know more broadly where their school stands, and not based on one group of guys and gals or another group of guys and gals. So we feel like that does well. And all our team rankings are exclusively based, our chase for the recruiting champion based completely on 24/7 composite rankings. Our recruiter rankings are based completely on 24/7 composite rankings. Same thing in basketball with the new team rankings there. So we've sort of created an industry consensus with regards to your favorite team's recruiting class in a given cycle.
Visiting with J.C. Shurburtt, who's the National Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Tennessee right now is ranked third in your team composite rankings. How surprising is that to have Tennessee that high right now and have the second most commits at this point behind only Texas?
I don't know that it's a shocker. I think it's a surprise, though. I think that coming in, the Butch Jones hire, although I felt like it was a very solid hire and he sort of hit the ground running, it wasn't celebrated nationally or there wasn't a great spotlight on it. But, he won a lot of games at Cincinnati and at his previous stop. So, here's a guy that can coach. And, I think that with the hires he's made, guys like Tommy Thigpen, Robert Gillespie, some guys on that staff, I think that they've gotten out and gotten the ball rolling and let recruits know that it's a new day in Tennessee. And I felt like, and I said this on the show before, with the 2014 class in state being good and the 2015 class being good as well, it was imperative for Tennessee to land their share. And you look, and already, Hurd and Todd Kelly are in the boat, and and people say, well, those are kids that would go to Tennessee anyway. Well, yes, but you have to get them. You can't have Vanderbilt sneak your guy, over to Nashville. You can't, let somebody go to Alabama or Florida. You got to land these guys, and they have. And I think that's gotten the ball rolling for them very well. It's not often Tennessee can build a core based on in-state guys, and I think they have the opportunity the next two cycles, and it comes at a good time because, when you don't win for a while, or you kind of lose your place in the conscience of the national recruits, and I think that you get in-state guys in there, you build it with them, you start winning more games, you're going to get back into that conscience.
Yeah, and some of those players got away from Derek Dooley, so it's not a guarantee that you get those kids in state. And I don't know that they have Jalen Hurd right now if it was Derek Dooley. But Vic Wharton, JC, has been a guy that's been so front and center in terms of recruiting and basically teasing when another verbal commitment is going to come. Is that another aspect to your already busy workload to have to track other commits to see what they're saying, especially Vic Wharton, who is sort of we jokingly call him the unofficial recruiting coordinator for Tennessee because he's waving the flag for Tennessee so much. Kind of talk about that aspect of following these kids on Twitter as well.
Yeah, and it's all social media. It kind of blends the prospect. I mean, I don't know. It kind of gives us a looking glass into prospect interaction. And, every year more and more prospects are on Twitter at a younger age, and it's a way to communicate. It's almost like, I hate to say it, spying on text messages or something, because you see the interaction and you see what's going on. The other thing as a reporter, though, that you have to keep in mind is these guys know Twitter is a stage, and they know that they have X number of followers, and there is an element of performance that I think that goes into it. But at the same time, make no mistake about it, you can sort of read the tea leaves on some of the things these guys say and break news often and, learn about, different happenings. I mean, it's not like it used to be where, boom, surprise, there's a commit. It's a lot it's a lot more of a gradual thing that you have to sort of predict and use all available angles that you can find.
JC, really appreciate it. Great insight as always. Look forward to getting you back on here again real soon. Thanks for your time.
Outstanding. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. It's JC Shurburtt. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at JC Shurburtt on Twitter and then also on the 24/7 Sports Network.